Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Vaibhav Jyotsna Srivastav, and with me is Sara Mujtaba, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment, and more. The headlines. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal says India strongly supports a robust WTO reforms and modernization agenda that is balanced and inclusive. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and his Spanish counterpart hold meeting in New Delhi, discuss growing engagements in political, defense, economic and cultural domains. ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting to be held in New Delhi on Thursday. All India Radio and Doordarshan score high on trust factor in digital news report of Reuters Institute. Olympics gold medalist Neeraj Chopra sets new javelin record at Paavo Nurmi Games in Finland. India's Manpreet Kaur and Paramjeet Kumar win bronze medals in World Powerlifting 2022 Asia Oceania Open Championships at Pyeongtaek. And in badminton, H.S. Pranoy defeats compatriot Lakshya Sen to reach the second round of Indonesia Open at Jakarta. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has said that India strongly supports a robust WTO reforms and modernization agenda that is balanced, inclusive and preserves the core principles of the current multilateral system. Addressing the 12th Ministerial Conference of the WTO in Geneva during the thematic session on WTO reform, Mr. Goyal said we should also agree to address the existing asymmetries implicit in the Uruguay round agreements. He said we are all agreed that the primary objective of the WTO is to serve as the mechanism through which international trade can become the means for supporting economic development of members, particularly the developing countries and the LDCs. The minister said we need to accord priority to the reform needs, especially to the crisis at the appellate body, whose functioning should become more transparent and effective. The number of suggestions for reforming the WTO could result in fundamental changes in the institutional architecture, thereby running the risk of skewing the system against the interest of developing countries. He said the principles of non-discrimination, predictability, transparency, and very importantly, the tradition of decision-making by consensus and the commitment to development underlying the multilateral trading system are sacrosanct. Mr. Goyal said in all such reforms, we must ensure that multilateral rule-making processes are neither bypassed nor diluted. He said special and differential treatment S&D is a treaty-embedded and non-negotiable right for all developing members. Mr. Goyal said the gaps between the developing and the developed members have not narrowed down in decades, but in fact have widened in many areas. He said S&D provisions therefore continue to be relevant. In today's Hotspots section, we bring you a discussion on news commentary. India makes a strong case for agriculture and food security in the developing countries at WTO.
Participating in the G33 ministerial meeting under the 12th World Trade Organization WTO Ministerial being hosted by Indonesia, India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal articulated India's transformation as a food-secure nation. India has had an experience to transit from a food deficit nation to a self-sufficient food country. India's state support in the form of subsidies and other government interventions has played a very important role to achieve this sufficiency. New Delhi is fighting for all the developing countries, including the least developed countries, LDCs collectively, based on our own journey and experience. Mr. Goyal observed that agriculture got a raw deal due to imbalanced outcomes because of some powers which had distorted markets by granting import subsidies and are continuing to grant export subsidies under the Agreement on Agriculture AOA. The less developed or least developing countries did not give subsidies, so therefore they lost their right to grant significant subsidies in future. The rules of agreement largely suited the developed countries' socio-economic architecture, higher entitlement of subsidies for the developed world were institutionalized, and the very formula for calculation of market price support was quite flawed and frozen at that point of time. Mr. Goel said, developing countries, including the LDCs, have always been at the receiving end and are made to compromise on the same subject. In the Ministerial Conference of December 2013, it was decided that the members agreed to put in place an interim mechanism to negotiate on an agreement for a permanent solution for adoption by the 11th Ministerial Conference. The process had been fixed, and we agreed on this in lieu of the agreement on trade facilitation, which the developed world was very keen to adopt. The 2015 Ministerial Conference took note of progress made thus far and decided that they reaffirmed the General Council decision of 2014 that members shall engage constructively to negotiate and make all concerted efforts to agree and adopt developments made. All countries need to reflect on what was decided should be pursued and included this time, else precious time will be lost. India and the G33 group members have for long been calling for accessible and effective Special Safeguard Mechanism (SSM) in order to address the destabilizing and crippling effects of import surges and downward price movement, largely due to huge subsidies by the developed members. They already have an aggregate measure of support entitlement, which is quite large, since there were already huge subsidies which were kept at a standstill for many years. This is so more particularly in the wake of volatility of the prices observed post-pandemic, and outcome remains for many members an important element of the agricultural package. The Agreement on Agriculture, which is already riddled with deep imbalances, favor the developed countries, which have created the rules against many developing countries. This is quite evident from what is happening. It is important that as a first step of agricultural reform, the historical asymmetries and imbalances must be corrected in order to ensure a rules-based, fair and equitable order. The playing field should be level for all. It will give our farmers a chance to provide security to our people. The WTO must continue to preserve the existing special and differential treatment (S&DT) provisions for the developing countries, which will help struggling farmers, particularly those who are keeping out or subsistence living. The flexibilities provided under the development clauses under Article 6.2 of the Agreement on Agriculture should not be touched in the name of domestic support reform. Mr. Goel stressed that all G33 members must work collectively to retain the cohesion of this coalition and strengthen it further by reaching out to other like-minded countries, secure the support for a fair, balanced and development-centric outcome, which must include the permanent solution to public stockholding and the Special Safeguard Mechanism (SSM).
India's overall exports in May this year are estimated to be over $62 billion, exhibiting a positive growth of over 24% over the same period last year. Commerce and Industry Ministry said the merchandise exports have grown by 20% and services exports by over 30% in May 2022. It said petroleum products, electronic goods, leather products, coffee, cereal preparations and oil meals lead the way in the growth of exports. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and Spanish Foreign Affairs Minister José Manuel Álvarez Bueno on Wednesday held a meeting in New Delhi. They discussed the growing engagements in political, defense, economic and cultural domains. This is the first official visit of the Spanish Foreign Minister to India. In a tweet, Dr. Jaishankar said they exchanged views on the Indo-Pacific, the Ukraine conflict, Afghanistan, North Africa and South Asia. He said both the countries have also agreed to work closely in multilateral forums. India and Spain enjoy close and friendly relations. The bilateral ties got a fresh impetus after Prime Minister Modi visited Spain in 2017.
India will host two-day special ASEAN-India Foreign Ministers meeting starting on Thursday. This will be the first meeting hosted by India and New Delhi. It will be accompanied by the 12th edition of Delhi Dialogue. The theme of Delhi Dialogue is building bridges in the Indo-Pacific. The ministerial session will be attended by External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and ASEAN's foreign ministers. External Affairs spokesman Arindam Bagchi termed the ASEAN central to India's Act East policy. Mr. Bagchi said ASEAN-India Foreign Ministers meeting will mark the 30th anniversary of the dialogue relations and the 10th anniversary of strategic partnership with ASEAN. Mr. Bagchi said 2022 has been designated as the ASEAN-India Friendship Year. French President Emmanuel Macron has said Europe needed to send a strong signal to Ukraine as he sought to assuage concerns in Kyiv and among some European allies over his previous stance towards Moscow. He delivered a statement during his visit to NATO forces at the Mikhail Kogolnichanu Air Base near the city of Constanta, Romania on Wednesday. Mr. Macron reached Romania on Tuesday for a three-day trip to Ukraine's eastern neighbors, including Moldova. He is expected to visit Kyiv on Thursday with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi and Romanian President Klaus Iohannis. The visit would come a day before the European Commission makes a recommendation on Ukraine's status as an EU candidate. This is All India Radio giving you the world news. For quick news updates around the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
Welcome back to the news. A successful training launch of a short-range ballistic missile, Prithvi-2, was carried out Wednesday evening from the integrated test range Chandipur in Indian state of Odisha. The missile is a proven system and is capable of striking targets with a very high degree of precision. The user training launch successfully validated all operational and technical parameters of the missile. The Government of India has said that the 5G spectrum auction will commence on the 26th of next month. Communications Ministry has said that the Department of Telecom has issued a notice inviting applications to facilitate rollout of 5G. The ministry said under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, the government is committed to providing affordable, state-of-art, high-quality telecom services to all the citizens. It said with considerable success in rolling out widespread 4G services, India is now ready to introduce 5G telecom services in the country. The successful bidders will be allowed to make payment in 20 equal annual installments at the interest rate of 7.2%. The ministry says spectrum acquired through this auction can be surrendered after a minimum period of 10 years. There will be no spectrum usage charges for spectrum acquired in this auction.
The Election Commission of India has issued notification for the election of the 16th President of India. Nomination can be filed by the candidates till the 29th of this month. The poll for the presidential election will be held on the 18th of next month and counting will take place on the 21st of July. The term of office of President Ramnath Kovind is ending on the 24th of July. The presidential election will be held by secret ballot in accordance with system of proportional representation as per the Constitution. All India Radio and Doordarshan enjoy the highest trust, and it has been corroborated again by a recent report of the Reuters Institute. The Digital News Report 2022 of the Reuters Institute said India registered a small increase in news trust, improving its overall position among the 46 markets. The report said legacy print brands and public broadcasters such as All India Radio and DD News continue to enjoy high trust among the survey respondents, while 24-hour television news channels are less well trusted along with newer digital-born brands. The survey of Indian news brands by the Reuters Institute shows that Sabka Vishwas on the authenticity and accuracy of news by All India Radio stands at 72% and DD News 71%. According to the report, apart from the high level of trust in DD News and AIR News, which continues to grow, even the reach of both DD News and All India Radio has increased. This continued trust, Sabka Vishwas in DD and AIR, has strengthened further thanks to the contribution of the robust digital presence of DD and AIR built lately. The Reuters Institute claims that its Digital News Report 2022 measured the digital news consumption based on a YouGov survey of over 93,000 online news consumers in 46 markets, covering half of the world's population.
The 12th meeting of Brics National Security Advisors or NSAs was held virtually on Wednesday. India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval emphasized the need for urgent reform of the multilateral system in order to address global issues with credibility, equity and accountability. He also stressed on the need to bolster cooperation against terrorism without any reservations and welcomed the cooperation ongoing in the Brics Counter-Terrorism Working Group. He also pressed on the need to continue cooperation against the challenges of pandemics and climate change. Egypt is hosting the 8th Global Conference of Young Parliamentarians in Sharm el-Sheikh, which began on Wednesday. The two-day conference is jointly organized by the House of Representatives and the Inter-Parliamentary Union or IPU. Nagaland's first woman elected as Member of Parliament to Rajya Sabha, S. Phangon Konyak, is representing India at the conference. She, along with two other young Lok Sabha MPs from India, will be sharing her thoughts on the Young MPs for Climate Action. The 8th Global Conference of Young Parliamentarians provides a platform for young MPs from across the world to exchange, learn and define common and innovative strategies to advance youth empowerment. This year in Egypt, around 200 young MPs from 60 countries are participating to discuss strategies to mitigate the impact of climate change and ensure that global warming does not exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius in line with the Paris Agreement. According to official information shared by IPU, there are 35,177 parliamentary seats globally, but just 2.66% of these are held by young MPs.
In Bangladesh, the 6th Population and Housing Census started on Wednesday with Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina formally launching the week-long exercise from her official residence, Khana Baban, in Dhaka. The census being held after a delay of more than 1 year from the scheduled time due to the COVID-19 pandemic. It will conclude on the 21st of this month. It is the first time Bangladesh is conducting the census digitally. The census will collect demographic and socio-economic data like the number of households, ownership of homes, income, source of drinking water, toilet facilities, religion, marital status, age, gender, among other kinds of data. Besides basic data from the non-resident Bangladeshis would also be collected in the census. Some 2,000 hotspots, both in the urban and rural areas, have already been identified to collect the data from the homeless people. The country's first population and housing census was held in 1974, followed by the second census in 1981, the third one in 1991, the fourth census in 2001, while the fifth one was conducted in 2011. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that yoga's beauty is in its simplicity. In a tweet on Wednesday, Mr. Modi said that yoga can be done at home, during work breaks or in a group. He added that yoga for anyone needs a yoga mat and some empty space. The Prime Minister hoped that people would practice yoga regularly.
15th of June is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. It is observed on this day every year to raise awareness about abuse and neglect of older people and raise awareness of the cultural, social, economic and demographic processes affecting elder abuse and neglect. It was officially recognized by the United Nations General Assembly in its resolution in December 2011. World Elder Abuse Awareness Day highlights the plight of elders at the hands of their relatives or society. A report.
Elder abuse is a problem that exists in both developing and developed countries. According to United Nations, between 2019 and 2030, the number of persons aged 60 years or above is projected to grow by 38%, that is from 1 billion to 1.4 billion, globally outnumbering youth. The 2020 National Commission on Population report estimates that there will be nearly 138 million elderly persons in India in 2021, comprising of 67 million males and 71 million females. Greater attention needs to be paid to the specific challenges affecting older persons, including in the field of human rights. World Elder Abuse Awareness Day is marked as an idea where people around the globe will come together to lend their voices against elderly abuse. With PV Varghese report, Manal Said, AIR News, Delhi.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and Sports Minister Anurag Singh Thakur inaugurated the squash courts at the Major Dhyan Chand Stadium in New Delhi on Wednesday. These are the first ever squash courts opened by the Sports Authority of India in any centre across the country. Addressing the event, Dr. Jaishankar, who is also an avid squash enthusiast, said Ministry of Sports is solely responsible for the entire project and making the facilities available. He said many sports now are getting recognition, and the message sent out by Prime Minister Modi to inculcate a lifestyle of fitness and give chance to talents is being resonated everywhere. Dr. Jaishankar said Mr. Modi has always stressed on physical fitness, competitiveness and mental strength, which is needed for New India. Dr. Jaishankar also mentioned that the Government of India will do everything possible to create more such sports facilities in the country. Sports Minister Anurag Singh Thakur reiterated the vision of Prime Minister and said Mr. Modi has always wanted increasing strength and competitiveness in sports as well as mental belief. He said having this facility at the national capital is another way of achieving that aim. The minister said he has full belief that having such a world-class squash infrastructure will definitely target more such promising champions in the coming years, and we are ready to support them through our Target Olympic Podium scheme and Khelo India scheme. He said India has bagged a total of 3 medals at the Commonwealth Games over the years and 13 medals at the Asian Games in the sport of squash. He added that this tally will keep increasing.
Tokyo Olympics gold medalist ace javelin thrower Neeraj Chopra set a new national record of 89.30 meters at Paavo Nurmi Games in Finland. Chopra's earlier national record was 88.07 meters, which we had set in Patiala in March last year. Neeraj won the silver medal with his throw at the event. This was Neeraj's first competitive outing since winning the historic gold medal at the Tokyo Games. Finland's Oliver Helander won the gold medal at the event with a throw of 89.83 meters. Neeraj had won the Tokyo Olympic gold with a throw of 87.58 meters on August 7th, 2021. Indian para-powerlifters Manpreet Kaur and Paramjeet Kumar have won bronze medals on the first day of World Powerlifting 2022 Asia-Oceania Open Championships at Pyeongtaek in South Korea. Manpreet Kaur won the bronze medal in the 41 kg category. She had the best lift of 88 kgs and the total lift of 173 kgs. In men's category, Paramjeet Kumar also won the bronze medal in 49 kg category. Kumar lifted 160 and 163 kilograms in 2 rounds, which were his lifetime best lifts.
In badminton, HS Pranoy defeated compatriot Lakshya Sen by 21-10, 21-9 to reach the second round of Indonesia Open. This was HS Pranoy's first ever win over world number 8 Lakshya Sen out of their 3 head-to-head meetings. In men's doubles, the duo of M.R. Arjun and Dhruv Kapila beat Japanese pair of Keiichiro Matsui and Yoshinori Takeuchi 27-25, 18-25, 21-19. However, in women's doubles, Indian pair Ashwini Bhatt and Shikha Gautam have lost their Chinese counterpart Zhang Xian and Zheng Yu 9-21, 10-21. The campaign also ended for another women's pairing of Harita M. Harinarayan and Ashina Noy, as the duo also faced straight games defeat against their strong South Korean counterpart of Jang Na-yeon and Kim Hye-jung. In cricket, opener Ishan Kishan jumped 68 places to storm into the top 10 of the ICC rankings for T20 international batters released on Wednesday. Ishan is number 7 in the rankings and is the only Indian in the top 10. The 23-year-old batter, who has been one of India's consistent performers in the ongoing T20 International Home Series against South Africa, so far scored 164 runs from 3 matches, including 2 half-centuries. Before the IPL, Ishan Kishan had also started with a blazing 89 in a T20 International against Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, Pakistan captain Babar Azam retained his number 1 spot in the ICC rankings for T20 international batters. His opening partner Mohammad Rizwan moved up to number 2 and replaced Aiden Makram of South Africa. Among bowlers, Bhuvneshwar Kumar is up 7 places to 11th, while leg spinner Chahal has climbed up 4 places to 26th. Australia's Josh Hazlewood has regained his number 1 spot among T20 bowlers. In the Test rankings, pace spearhead Jasprit Bumrah has moved his spot to 3rd, behind compatriot R. Ashwin, who remains static on number 2. Ravindra Jadeja and Ashwin, however, continue to occupy the top 2 spots in the all-rounders list. Skipper Rohit Sharma retained his 7th and Virat Kohli 10th spot among batters, while England's Joe Root is back at the top after smashing a second successive century in the ongoing ICC World Test Championship Series against New Zealand.
Bhubaneswar will host India's group stage matches of FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup football in October this year. Matches will be held at Kalinga Stadium. The fixtures list for the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup has officially been announced on Wednesday. Meanwhile, Goa will play home to both semi-final matches, and the final will be played at Navi Mumbai on October the 30th. And now a report from the business desk.
The Census tumbled 152 points or 0.29% to finish at 52,541, while the Nifty fell 40 points or 0.25% to end at 15,692. At the global stock markets, Asian shares traded mixed. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index rose 1.1% and China's Shanghai Composite Index surged 0.5%. On the other hand, South Korea's Kospi lost 1.8% and Japan's Nikkei fell 1.1%. Singapore's Straits Times ended marginally down by 0.1%. European shares were up in the intraday trade. The crude oil prices fell around 0.5% in the intraday trade. Brent crude was trading at around $120.70. Back home, gold prices surged 570 rupees at the multi-commodity exchange for August contracts. Precious metal was trading at 50,770 rupees per 10 grams. Silver prices also gained 1,245 rupees to 60,745 rupees per kilogram for July contracts and reports last came in. And in the forex market, the rupee weakened 7 paise against the US dollar. The rupee closed at 78 rupees and 7 paise against the US currency. Nishit Kumar for World News, All India Radio.
And now let's take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. First, let's take a look at the press reports on China. The Times of India headlines: Sino-India relations after 2 years of Galwan Valley clashes, no change in Dragon's game plan. It writes there are no signs that China is sincere in resolving the issue despite India's continuing efforts to settle the border problem. The Indian Express reports China emerged as a top buyer of Indian rice during the COVID pandemic, with neighbouring country importing 16.34 lakh metric tons LMT or 7.7% of India's total rice export of 212.1 LMT in financial year 2021-22, according to an analysis of trade data. Now let's take a look at the press reports on Nepal. According to My Republica, member of the House of Representatives Prem Suwal stated that the Nepal Army and the US Army had formed a 10-point agreement and demanded an answer from the government on the issue. The Kathmandu Post writes that the Nepalese rupee plunged to an all-time low of 125.16 rupees compared to the dollar on Tuesday. Now let's take a look at the press reports from Balochistan. The Balochistan Post reports that the former senior Afghan officials and their families spent millions purchasing expensive homes in the US and abroad in the final years of the war. The Express Tribune reports that over 15,000 underage children in Balochistan are working at construction sites, coal mines, garbage collection sites and automobile workshops. Now let's take a look at the press reports from Afghanistan. Pajwalk reports that Russia has hinted at recognizing the Taliban government if the movement brings inclusivity to its administration. In a statement, the Afghanistan Independent Journalists Association has reported that Abdul Hanan Mohammadi, the association's representative and local journalist, has disappeared in Kapisa. Now let's take a look at the press reports from Pakistan. The Dawn reports that Interior Minister Rana Sanaullah on Tuesday accused former Prime Minister Imran Khan and his wife Bushra Bibi of accepting 5 billion rupees and hundreds of canals of land from Bahria town in return for providing protection to the real estate firm in a money laundering case during the PTI government.
And now a quick look at the headlines once again. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal says India strongly supports robust WTO reforms and modernization agenda that is balanced and inclusive. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and his Spanish counterpart held a meeting in New Delhi discussed growing engagements in political, defense, economic and cultural domains. The 12th meeting of Brics National Security Advisors held on Wednesday virtually, India's NSA Ajit Doval emphasized the need for urgent reform of multilateral system to address global issues with credibility. ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting to be held in New Delhi on Thursday. All India Radio and Doordarshan score high on trust factor in digital news report of Reuters Institute. Olympics gold medalist Neeraj Chopra sets new javelin record at Paavo Nurmi Games in Finland. India's Manpreet Kaur and Paramjeet Kumar win bronze medals in World Para Powerlifting 2022 Asia-Oceania Open Championships at Pyeongtaek. And in badminton, H.S. Pranoy defeats compatriot Lakshya Sen to reach second round of Indonesia Open at Jakarta. Now, before we end, let's listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan, Vaishnav by artists from Zimbabwe. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.